So I'm recording this video about a macro and business cycle part of the lecture that we don't have time to cover in the class. So hopefully that help you to answer some of the question uh, that you will ask using the case study. And let's get started for the introduction. So there are many models that we would we would be looking for, but for the time being that let us focus on, in this video, let us focus on the ISLM model. If time, we will do the ISMAS, and but for the moment that we'll focus on is the ISLM model. Okay, we clear IS is the investment saving, and that determine the equilibrium in the goods market, and LM will be the one that determine the liquidity and money preference. So it's the money market. So one is a goods market, the other is the money market. So let's get started with why we want to consider macro, right? Because we learned from the previous class and the microeconomics that the markets always uh, solve itself. There's always in equilibrium, demand equal to its supply, and the Say's law would say supply creates its own demand. But John Keynes, looking at the value of the market after the World War One, um, he thinks, particularly also the Great Depression, and he thinks that looking at the long run is the uh, mis- misleading to what happened now. Say the economist looking in the long run is just simply not looking at the right thing, right? It's just like in the long run we're all dead. It's just pretty much true, but it's useless. That what he said is very famous quotation here is he said is economists set themselves too easy, and which is also useless. And we are talking about after the storm is all past, okay, long past, the ocean is flat again. Just like the typhoon is gone, then the ocean is flat again. But the problem we care is when the typhoon sticking, then what happened to that? So that is Keynes is long run is too long to be worried about that. The short run is something we care. So that is basically the failure of macro during the Great Depression, that economists and many people lost confidence on the market. So that is the idea behind it. He developed his new idea, and possibly people would call it father of macro because of this. And in his famous book, they call it general theory because he think that what he thought is a general compared to the classical, which is a special case, because the short run he thinks is more general, and he hoped this can last for many long years. That's why he called general theory, and you can see his focus is on employment, interest, and money, right? It's labor market and the money market, right? And of course, this is turned out to be related to the output, right? Because these jointly determine the output. And that's we said, right? Because he said is general compared to the classical. Is the long run only apply when things are settled down. So that's why he called general. Um, and he was said, right? If we just apply the long run model, the classical model, okay, that into short run, that to guide us into economic policy or understanding, that turn out uh, not to be the right thing to do. So that is what the general theory he is mentioning. Okay. So now we want to look at some developments of the macro model because we don't have time to cover everything, but just to give you some idea of macro models. The model that we actually cover the classical, the ADAS model, right? And you can see the government doesn't help because in the long run, right, the government increase the money supply. In the short run, it can help if you assume some sticky price, but in the long run, it's not going to do anything. Uh, so what Keynes said in the general theory is that government can help, and the Keynes, the original textbook is the book is very thick, and then possibly very difficult to understand. So there's the most model that we learn is formalized by Hicks in 1937, called the ISLM model, and that model without talking price, just a real sign. Because in short run, Keynesian, or the people who follow him, is called Keynesian, who believe that price is not changing in the short run. So looking at the market without price, we find. And of course, later, because of stagflation in the 70s, right, when the oil price goes up and everything price become important, uh, people add AS, aggregate supply, to that. Okay, and then later when things uh, the economy become globalized, and we add open economy. So basically, pretty much the development of the theory follow what happened in the real world, right? The classical model is there because capitalism tends to work, but the Great Depression uh, would introduce a problem. Actually, short run need not be equilibrium may not solve it out. So this RSLM model, and later when inflation kicks in, we have AS model, and when trade become important or international finance is important, with open economy model. And this is before 70s, and later after 70s, and people figure out that there's still some problem, and then they what we call the neoclassical model, and also the uh, neo-Keynesian model, right? As you can see, there's a neoclassical model and neo-Keynesian model, and main the main thing, the difference is whether this is price flexible, and the other is price are sticky, right? But and the classical assume price are flexible, and why you have business cycle in the short run thing is because of short in aggregated supply. Okay, there's a changes in productivity. R&D is going as fast as we want or slower. So you will see the real business cycle model in 80s, and the important thing that this line of research tells you a very important model they call dynamic stochastic general equilibrium model, DGSE, and which is the current state of art. And basically this is the model that all the modern macro is based on, uh, and even other people are using it. And the neo Keynesian actually is slightly different, and then they still take the price sticky, and the sticky, the idea is because of the market's imperfect, it's not perfect competition, and people rational expectation, and government intervention could be good. And these are the 80 in the 1980s model. In the 1990s, then the two stream combined together into this neoclassical synthesis. They try to combine classical model in the Keynesian model, and basically, as I said, this is the current uh, state of the art. Is the we have a business cycle model under the DGSE, and then with market imperfection. And if you want to learn that, that will be a Ph.D. level classes. But I just want to talk about that so that you have idea what happened in the uh, new model. But you may ask, still, is it going to make a difference compared to the model we learned, ISM model? In terms of uh, prediction, or main idea would not be too much different. But in terms of understanding mechanics, this new model will tell you way more stuff. So that would be something that we want to know. And other developments in the macro is also involve something new we call we we learn how expectation that change inflation. That comes from a very famous critique from Lucas, where he think that inflation in the old days is people are not smart, just adapting, but actually people are not very smart. And if the government keep printing money and people expect that, right? The same idea would be saying the famous quotation. I mean, you can fool some people all the time, all the people some of the time, but cannot fool all the people all the time, right? So I mean, in the long run, or at least in the medium run, right? If the central bank keep printing money, people would expect and will adjust accordingly. And this gives us a very famous uh, idea we call Phillips curve. Uh, in the long run, people cannot be fooled, but in the short run, there's some slight trade-off about inflation and output, right? So that means that some monetary policy might work, right? Because you print money, then you have inflation, and with some inflation, you can have some output, right? So have some inflation, you accept some cost of price goes up, then you can boost output in the short run. But only in the short run. The long run, it cannot work, right? So same as what we have expect in the ADS model, the sticky price model, right? Uh, and there's a foundation behind the newer model, the IS-MPIA model. I don't think we have time to cover, but that's the model that is newer than ISLM. And the central bank, for central bank, this until 90s, there's a lot of discussion of the central bank are not controlling the money; they control the interest rate rule. Interest rate, so they apply some simple rule. That's called Taylor rule, and that underline the new ISMP model. But in our class, at least in this video, we don't have time to cover the MP, but we will focus on the ISLM model, which will be uh, covered soon. Now, I think we are ready to go for the ISLM model, which is the classical model that written by Hicks, but that is he tried to get what the uh, Keynes means. Okay, IS is investment saving. LM would be the we call liquidity and money. Okay, so just say to give you some idea, the model is as we said, IS is the goods market equilibrium, and LM is money market equilibrium. And the IS is exactly this line. Okay, this line here. Okay, look at this is the horizontal one is the output, and the vertical one interest. Okay, and IS model is saying that because of the investment saving, which also same as what we learned in the very similar to what we learned in the classical model, right? The IS investment saving is this downward sloping line, right? And slightly different is this LM, right? Later we will see how interests are related to output, okay? But this is how interest rate related to output, right? So basically it's connection between the uh, outcome in the goods market's output and the money market interest rate, so they combine together. And this is equilibrium. So it's very interesting, right? So it's just each line is equilibrium outcome in different market. Okay, so that summarize this. So let's look at the investment saving. Again, is the idea that investment is equal to saving, and this gives us this downward sloping line, right? Which means if output goes, you can see here when output goes in this direction, interest rate would go down, right? The higher the uh, output, right? And the lower the interest rate. And probably we want to know why it's downward sloping, okay? So that will be, we are going to derive in the next few slides. So we are going to understand why investment saving implied interest rate and output are inversely related, okay? So the idea is go back to the biggest goods market, right? So that's why we are trying to start with the following, because you will see here, right? Uh, there's a new concept we call planned expenditure. Okay, uh, that is how much people expected to spend, right? Of course depends on the consumption part, right? The income and government spending, right? Just how the GDP is being determined, right? And why we call planned expenditure? Because consumption depends on disposable income, right? High the income would be higher C, okay? And as we said in the last class, this is uh, usually the slope will be less than 1, right? Increase in 1 unit of income, that will give you less than 1 increase in the consumption. So that's why you will see this particular line, right, is increasing Y, right? Because the interest rate, sorry, the investment and the government expenditure is independent of the output, right? Is the investment only depend on the the interest rate, right? So basically, it's just only the spending, right? So this is the line that how people expected to expand to spend is based on this function, and this function is less steep than the 45-degree line, right? It's similar to what we learned last time, the consumption function, right? But now we have extra two park here, but they are independent of output, so that's why that's fine. And next is this, right? The budget constraint here is uh, in equilibrium, how much you spend should be same as how much you produce, right? You can spend, you can't in the in equilibrium economy, you can't spend the more you have, right? So this is a 40. This line is a 45-degree line, right? Increase in one output uh, will give you $1 to spend, right? So that is the idea of this. So in equilibrium, that we'll be looking at will be uh, this cross, right? And this is known as what we call the Keynesian clause, is because this is invented by Keynes, and this is the equilibrium. And how can we understand this equilibrium? You can look at this graph here, okay? In particular, I want to look at, we compare this interest rate and this interest rate, right? Look at two different interest rate, and uh, you can see, right, the investment is same as what we learned last class, right? If you interest rate goes up, right, you have less investment, right? Because this opportunity will be less, right? So it's downward sloping. And that means that when interest rate goes up, right, that means that the planned expenditure, right, when your interest go up, the planned expenditure would go down, right? Because interest rate goes up, right? And then less investment you can do. So we just jump to this point, this new equilibrium. That means that the output would drop, right? So that's why you can see when this goes up and this go to here, that's why it's drop. The output will drop, right? So that's why income, the output, and the interest rate are inversely related. The idea is be related to the investment opportunity, right? Interest goes up, less investment. So that's why the IS curve is downward sloping. Okay. So if you want to know uh, more the math, it's this formula, right? Is expenditure equal to C plus I per G, and C is this based on disposable income, investment based on interest rate, government spending is fixed, and output equal to expenditure, tax is constant, right? So that's why we have this, right? This is the Keynesian cost, right? So because of the Keynesian cost, then actually we can look at a lot of stuff. For example, look at the government spend more. That is the what they call the fiscal policy, right? Government spend more money from the government budget. Okay, and if you look at that, then actually it will shift the IS to right. Okay, let's see why this is true. Okay, um, the reason is being that originally we're here. Okay, we're here, right? This is it. The red one is our equilibrium, and now government spend more. They become two. Why? Because PE is the consumption plus investment plus government expenditure. So increase would mean this go up from here to here, right? And that means that you are going to, for the same interest rate, right? You would have more output, right? So the fiscal policy will shift IS curve to the right hand side if government increases spending, right? If government reduces spending, so the IS curve will shift to the left, right? So expansionary fiscal policy would go to the right hand side. If you contractionary, go to the left hand side, right? So that is the IS curve. Now we can we skip the math, right? But this math just trying to say this idea. But let's look at the LM curve, right? The LM curve, as we said, is a money market equilibrium, and money market equilibrium is simply the demand equals of supply, right? How the money market clear. Okay, so let's get to see. And in the short run, the important part is uh, the price level is fixed, okay? And this is what the Keynes think, right? The stock run king. And if you think about inflation, it's important that we will have to talk about ISLM And here we also fix uh, money supply, okay? This is the system, the money supply is determined by the central bank, right? If central bank doesn't change, this is not going to change. So this is something that decided by central bank. So the money policy will affect this one, but if you don't talk about policy, this is considered to be exogenous to the model. Now, we look at this, okay? The money market is, uh, as we said, is demand and supply, right? This is the one that is a quantity of money, right? And this is the interest rate, okay? And we talk about the real money supply is the money over price level. And you may ask why this is a vertical line, the supply, because P is fixed, right? So you see the P prime, and M prime is also central bank is not going to change anything. So that's why it's a constant is independent of interest rate. Okay, and uh, we have here is this demand side. The demand side is called liquidity preference. It's the LM idea, the L idea. Why? The how much money you want to keep, right? The real money want to keep, right? How much money you can keep depends on two things. One is interest rate, right? The more the interest rate is high, and that means that keeping money in your hand is not worth it, right? Because you keep money, then you forgo the interest rate, right? The deposit, the interest rate is high, then you want to keep in the bank, right? Or do some investment, right? So it's decreasing. And of course, if you have Y increasing in Y, because if you have money, then you can keep more money, right? If you have $1 billion in your pocket, then you can keep more in the money, right? So that's why the money demand is downward sloping, right? Uh, why? Because you can see this and these are inversely related, right? The lower the interest rate, you want to keep more money, right? So the lower the interest rate, you want to keep more money. So that's why it's a downward sloping. Now, and we want to look at the equilibrium, right? Equilibrium just demand equals supply, right? So this is the supply is like this fixed, right? And demand is downward sloping, right? That means that we have the equilibrium here, the interest rate, and the money supply, right? So um, that is how the money market works, right? To understand the mechanics, let's see what happened if the government increase, I would say in this case, reduce the money supply, right? It's a contractionary uh, monetary policy, right? So print less money. When they print less money, then the interest will go up, right? And conversely, if the bank print more money, interest will go down, right? So that is the idea that behind the Federal Reserve, right? They print more money and interest rate would go down, right? So that would be the way, right? How they do that is sometimes they call uh, money market open market operation, right? Keep buying the bonds and selling the bonds, provide liquidity to the market, then change the money supply, and thereby affect the interest rate. Okay, so let's see how the LM curve shifts. Okay, and remember LM is asking, right, if interest rate goes up, uh, what happened to the output, right? Is the how the interest rate and the output related. Okay, so ask ourselves, is the uh, liquidity uh, preference originally we have this one, the red one, right? Uh, the original equilibrium is here, right? This is original equilibrium. Okay. Now the question is, suppose the uh, economy, the output expand, right? The liquidity demand, the money demand will goes up, right? People want to keep more money, and in this one, that means the interest rate goes up, right? Because people uh, demand more money, right? Uh, have more income, then they want to uh, keep, right? They want to keep more money, then the interest will go up, right? Uh, and that means that this will become interest rate high, right? When output increase, interest will go up, right? Because people want to keep more money, and because the how much money you have is fixed, so interest rate have to increase to make people don't want to keep that much, right? Because that's the idea. So that's why it's a upward sloping LM curve. Okay, so now we have ISLM here, uh, and but let's continue to look at the compressed statics on LM curve, right? So happen is monetary policy, right? So in this case, as we said, right, suppose the monetary authority central bank reduce the money supply, right? That would make the interest rate go up, right? It's a more strict money supply, right? In that case, right, look at the LM curve. The LM curve would shift up, right? Because for the same output with fixed, right, when the money supply reduce, right, interest rate go up, right? So for the same output, it goes up. So that's why the monetary policy, when contractionary, then it go up, right? And when expansionary, then go down, right? So you print more money, interest rate go down, right? When you print less money, interest rate go up. Okay. Now we have LM curve. Okay. So that you can combine the two. Uh, we have the ISLM model. Okay, ISLM model, and this the IS curve is the goods market. This is the LM curve, and the important part is this one, right? And we can see this is the out model we want to have, right? Remember, downsloping IS, upsloping LM, right? And then what we want is to look at how the money policy or fiscal policy change the outcome here. Under the fiscal policy, right? When we have expansionary fiscal policy, right, which means the government spend more money, right, spend more money, uh, or reduce tax, right? So just uh, that means that the IS curve will shift to the right, right? Remember what we said, right? The idea is being uh, the the PE curve, right, would shift up, right? So the interest rate, they're related in that way. So IS curve will shift to the right hand side, okay? And in that case, you will see the both the interest rate and output would goes up, right? So that means that that is exactly what Keynes said, right? When there's a recession there, there's not enough people to buy the demand, then the government to step in to spend more money, right? That underline a lot of the reason why many planned economy like China or many socialist country or even in US as well is like believe they're spending a lot of public expenditure, spending on public facility can help improve the GDP, right? But of course, there's some drawback is increased interest rate, right? Uh, but at least output increase, right? That would be the prediction, right? So if you see, you expect the government is spending a lot, right? So there's two prediction here. One, GDP will go up, right? At least in the short run. And second, interest rate in the economy go up, right? So that means that because government spend more money, uh, making private sector people would have to borrow more at a higher interest rate. Okay, so that would be the idea. Now, of course, if you have a contractionary fiscal policy, right, the government collect more tax and so on and so forth, or government spend less money, then you have a reverse direction, right? If government spend less, the GDP will drop, right? Interest rate will drop, right? So that would be related, just another direction. Okay. And what about the comparative statistics on the monetary policy, right? So the central bank, right? The central bank, what happened? They print more money, right? You remember if they print more money, the LM curve will shift to the right hand side, right? Uh, and that means that in the equilibrium, the interest will go down, right? And output will goes more, right? So it does suggest monetary policy can do similar thing to the fiscal policy, right? And also the benefit is the interest rate is going to be dropped, right? So that's why uh, in the in the 60s, right, Milton Friedman or other people would think the monetary policy actually is better, right? And they believe it's more efficient, right? Because they improve output and interest will go down, right? And that explains why a lot of intervention in day-to-day business they would use the monetary policy, right? Because it's a little bit more efficient in that context. Okay, I hope we have covered good enough for the uh, ISLM model that tells you uh, how to work with the physical policy, right? Is the IS curve shift. When you have money policy, is LM curve shift. Thank you.